Hello everyone, and welcome back to Immigration Updates Hub. As the year begins to wind down, and the calendar inches closer to another new beginning, many of us are taking a breath and looking back at what has often felt like a very long, very uncertain journey. If you're navigating the US immigration system right now, that journey may have been filled with paperwork, waiting, rumors, hope, disappointment, and small moments of relief. It's completely normal to feel a mix of emotions at this time of year. You might feel grateful to have made it this far, exhausted from the constant stress, worried about what comes next, or cautiously hopeful that things might finally move forward. All of those feelings are valid for millions of people across the United States and around the world. Immigration isn't just a legal process on paper, it's a daily reality. It's the work permit that decides whether you can keep your job. It's the green card application that determines whether your family can stay together. It's the removal case that keeps you up at night, wondering if you'll have to leave the life you've built. It's the visa number that decides if this is your year to move forward, or another year of waiting. And during this season, as social media fills up with headlines, viral posts, and emotional stories, the noise can become overwhelming. You may be hearing, new rules are coming that will change everything. USCIS is about to stop processing certain applications. Deportations are about to skyrocket. A big amnesty is just around the corner. Some of these messages are half-truths, some are speculation, some are just plain wrong. And when you're already stressed, that confusion can become unbearable. This video is for you, if you're tired of that confusion. Today, we're going to pause, step back from the hype, and focus on what we can say with clarity, what is actually happening in work permit processing, how green card cases are moving, what deportation priorities really look like, and what visa availability means as we approach the end of this year and move toward 2026. No drama, no rumors, just information, context, and a focus on what it all means for real people. People like you, your family, or your employees. Let's start with one of the most critical pieces of the puzzle: work permits. Work permits, EADs. More predictability, more protection for many immigrants in the United States. An employment authorization document, or EAD, is not just a plastic card. It's your ability to pay rent and bills, support your children or aging parents, stay in your professional field, and live with a basic sense of dignity and control over your life. Losing a work permit, even temporarily, can mean losing your job, your health insurance, and in some cases, your ability to maintain lawful status. That's why what's happening with work permit processing is so important. Over the past year, there have been some noticeable improvements in this area. Let's break them down. More predictable processing times. Processing times still vary by category, like asylum, TPS, adjustment of status, DACA, and others, by USCIS Service Center, and by overall case volume. But many applicants have reported more predictable timelines than in the most chaotic years of backlogs. While delays still happen, renewals in several categories are no longer disappearing into silence for as long as they once did. You're more likely to see receipts issued within a more regular time frame, online updates that actually change, and decisions that, while not always fast, are at least moving. Is it perfect? Not at all. But predictability itself is a kind of relief. When you can reasonably estimate when your card might arrive, you can talk to your employer with more confidence, budget more realistically, and plan your life in something other than 30-day increments. Instead of waking up every day wondering, will my EAD come this week? You can at least say, it's taking about this long for people like me, so I know roughly what to expect. Expanded use of automatic extensions. Another major protection for many work permit holders is the increased use, and in some categories, expansion of automatic extensions. Here's what that means in practice. If you file a timely renewal of your EAD in an eligible category, and you meet the basic requirements, you may be allowed to keep working legally for a set period of time past your card's printed expiration date, while USCIS processes the renewal. For many people, this has been a game changer. In the past, a processing delay could mean a terrifying gap where your EAD expired, but your new card wasn't ready yet. That could mean you were removed from the schedule at work, your employer's HR department panicked, or you were forced to sit at home without income through no fault of your own. Automatic extensions have helped close that gap for many categories. Workers can often remain on the job, employers can keep trusted staff, families can avoid the sudden financial crisis that comes from a paperwork delay that nobody on the ground can control. If you're in a category that benefits from auto extensions, that protection can give you valuable breathing room. You're not just staring at the expiration date. You have a cushion while your renewal moves through the system. Better digital systems and communication USCIS has also continued to expand electronic filing and improve some of its internal digital tools. This does not mean the system is suddenly smooth and simple, but it has changed the experience for many applicants. Some of the improvements include more categories eligible for online filing of forms, including certain EAD applications, clearer online case status updates instead of months of case received with no visible change, and more consistent issuance of receipt notices and approval notices. This matters in very practical ways. Your employer may be more willing to trust the process when they can see your official receipt and case status. You're less likely to be left wondering if your application was lost in the mail. You can track where you stand and make decisions accordingly. None of this makes the work permit system painless. It is still slow in many categories. It still requires patience and planning. But today, it is more structured and more transparent than during some of the most chaotic years. And for families depending on that single card, that increased stability is meaningful. Green cards. Slow, uneven, but moving. Now let's turn to one of the most emotionally charged parts of the system, green cards. For many people, a green card is more than a status. It represents security, the belief that you can put down roots, family unity, spouses, children, and parents staying together, and opportunity, the ability to change jobs, travel, buy a home, or plan long-term. This is exactly why every delay, every case remains pending, and every silent month can feel unbearable. But there is some important factual reassurance here. Green card adjudications are continuing, even in a year filled with intense political debates over immigration, changes in enforcement strategies, and shifting policy discussions. Green card cases are still being processed. This includes family-based petitions, employment-based petitions, and adjustment of status cases for people already inside the US, where visa numbers are available and backlogs have eased somewhat. Many applicants are seeing interviews scheduled, requests for evidence, RFEs issued and resolved, and final approvals granted. Progress is not uniform. Not every category is moving at the same speed. Not every country experiences the same wait times. But one key message is this: cases are not completely frozen. The machinery is still running. Not all categories move at the same pace. It's important to stay realistic. Some family-based categories are still heavily backlogged. Some countries face longer waits because of per-country limits. Certain employment-based green cards may move faster, while others inch forward slowly. If you're from a country with high demand, or in a category with historically long lines, your experience may still feel painfully slow. You might see others approved sooner, even if they applied after you, simply because they are in a different category or country. That can feel unfair, it can be frustrating, but it doesn't mean your case has been forgotten. What we are seeing is more consistency and movement. Cases are being touched. Files are moving from one stage to another. Interviews, while sometimes delayed, are happening. For someone who has spent years wondering if their case would ever leave the pending stage, even small signs of movement can represent real progress. Backlog reduction efforts. Imperfect, but real backlogs are still large. That is a fact. But there have been clear moments where, when resources and priorities line up, the system has shown it can move larger volumes of cases. Examples of this kind of effort include shifting files between field offices or service centers to balance workload, using digital tools for faster file handling and internal communication, and prioritizing certain groups of cases to prevent visa numbers from going unused. For many applicants who had started to lose hope, these efforts have resulted in long pending interviews finally being scheduled, long quiet cases suddenly getting updates, and approvals that felt unimaginable a few years ago. None of this erases the stress of waiting. None of it makes the system feel fast. But it does prove something important. However slow and frustrating it may be, the green card system is still functioning, and for many people, it is still moving forward. Deportation and enforcement. Fear versus reality. Now let's address one of the heaviest topics: deportation. This is an area where fear spreads quickly, and misinformation spreads even faster. A single viral post can convince thousands of people that mass raids are coming, everyone is in danger, or no one is safe anymore, even if that doesn't match what's actually happening on the ground. So let's ground this in the key reality. Enforcement priorities are focused, not random. Right now, deportation efforts are not aimed equally at everyone. Enforcement resources remain focused more heavily on people with serious criminal convictions, individuals considered threats to national security, and certain other high-priority categories as defined by current enforcement guidelines. This does not mean deportations have stopped or that no one else is at risk. But it does mean that broad, random targeting of people who are living ordinary lives, working, paying taxes, and raising families is not the primary focus of enforcement activity. For millions of immigrants who are trying to follow the rules, checking in with immigration authorities when required, and not involved in criminal activity, this more focused enforcement approach can translate into a bit more day-to-day stability. You may still feel anxious, but the risk is not the same for everyone, and it is not as random as social media sometimes makes it seem. Due process still exists. One of the strongest protections in the US system is due process. Despite all the challenges, this remains a cornerstone of immigration law. This means that in many situations, people in removal proceedings or deportation proceedings have the right to present their case in court. They may apply for certain forms of relief, such as asylum, cancellation of removal, adjustment of status, or other protections if they qualify. And they have the right, in most cases, to seek legal representation at their own expense, to gather evidence, and to be heard by an immigration judge. Is this process fast? No. Is it easy? No. But it is a process, not immediate, automatic removal in most cases. For many families, simply knowing that removal is not imminent, and that they will have a chance to present their case, allows them to focus more on work, school, and family life, instead of living in constant panic. This does not mean you should ignore legal notices, or fail to seek help when you need it. It does mean that you are not completely powerless, and that you still have rights in this system. Again, this is not to minimize the fear or the real risks some people face. But it is important to distinguish between fear fueled by rumors and the actual enforcement priorities and procedures in place. Visa availability, small movements, big impact. Next, let's talk about visa availability, something that quietly controls the pace of many green card journeys. If you are waiting in a family-based or employment-based category, your ability to move forward often depends on when a visa number becomes available for your category and your country. This is tracked each month in the Visa Bulletin, published by the US Department of State. Why the Visa Bulletin matters. The Visa Bulletin tells you whether your priority date, the date your petition was filed, is current, or whether you still need to wait before you can file certain applications, such as adjustment of status or immigrant visa processing at a US consulate abroad. In some categories, demand is far higher than the annual number of visas available. That's where the long backlogs come from. When you hear that a category is backlogged by years, that's usually what people are talking about. The gap between how many people are waiting and how many visas are available each year. Recent movement and what it means. As we approach the end of the year and look toward 2026, we have seen forward movement in some categories that had been stalled for months or even years. We've also seen small but meaningful shifts that suddenly make some people current who were not current before. For someone who has been watching the Visa Bulletin month after month, a movement of even a few weeks or a few months can mean you can finally file your adjustment of status application. Your spouse or child can finally proceed to the next step in consular processing. Or you can begin to obtain work authorization linked to your pending green card case. On paper, these might look like tiny changes. In real life, they can mark the transition from waiting endlessly to finally taking action. Better access to information. While the system is far from transparent in every respect, it is more open than it once was. Today, you can check the Visa Bulletin online for free. See your case status on the USCIS Case Status portal, review public processing time estimates, and, if you choose, compare your experience with others in similar categories. This doesn't eliminate uncertainty, but it does help you set more realistic expectations, understand whether a delay is normal or unusual, and plan your next steps accordingly. In a process that often feels like walking through fog, even partial visibility can make a huge difference. The big picture. A system that is complex but not collapsing. So, how do all these pieces, work permits, green cards, deportations, visas, fit together? They tell a story of stability in the middle of complexity. Yes, the US immigration system is still complicated, slow in many places, and emotionally draining to navigate. Yes, policies can shift, and they likely will. Yes, processing times can still stretch far longer than anyone would like. But when we look at the overall picture as we move toward 2026, we see work permits are being issued, and for many categories, protections like automatic extensions continue to exist and provide a crucial safety net. Green cards are still being approved, with interviews happening, and backlogged cases slowly, but genuinely, moving forward. Enforcement priorities remain more targeted, with a focus on higher-risk individuals, rather than broad, random sweeps of ordinary families. Visa numbers continue to be allocated, and in several categories, the Visa Bulletin has shown forward progress, rather than indefinite stagnation. This doesn't make the system easy. It doesn't mean everyone will get the outcome they hope for, or that your case will move as quickly as you need. But it does mean the system is not falling apart. It is still functioning. It is still capable of moving cases forward. And that matters in very real, everyday ways. It means you can renew a lease without wondering if you'll be forced to leave next month. You can consider a job offer with a bit more confidence in your work authorization. You can enroll your kids in school knowing that, at least for now, their lives can continue with some normalcy. Employers can plan ahead to keep valued employees, instead of constantly fearing last-minute disruptions. Universities can welcome international students and researchers, knowing the processes behind them, while imperfect, are still operating. In other words, you can plan, not just day by day, but with at least some view toward the next year or two. Looking ahead, realistic expectations, cautious hope, as we step into a new year and gradually move toward 2026. Here is a grounded way to think about what lies ahead. Processing times will still vary. Some people will see quick approvals. Others will experience frustrating delays. Policies may still change. Elections, court rulings, and agency decisions can shift priorities and procedures. Backlogs will not disappear overnight. In some categories, the wait will remain long. But at the same time, if you are waiting for a work permit, the system is still processing them. And existing protections, like automatic extensions in certain categories, remain a crucial layer of stability. If you are waiting for a green card, adjudications are ongoing, interviews are being scheduled, approvals are still being issued every single day. If you are worried about deportation, enforcement is not random. Due process, while imperfect, still exists. People continue to request and receive relief where the law allows it. If you are watching visa availability, the Visa Bulletin continues to move. Even slow incremental progress can open real doors for you and your loved ones. This is not about false optimism. It's about informed confidence. It's about understanding where things actually stand, what is and is not changing, and how you can best prepare for what comes next. A final word to you. As this year comes to a close, take a moment, just for yourself, to recognize what you've already done. You have filled out complex forms in a language that may not be your first, waited months or years without clear answers, balanced work, family, and legal uncertainty, and kept moving forward despite fear, confusion, and rumors. That takes strength, that takes resilience, and it deserves to be acknowledged. As the new year begins, there are real reasons to feel a sense of cautious hope. Not because everything is easy, not because the system is suddenly fair or fast, but because, even in the middle of complexity and debate, there is continuity, there is progress, and there are real pathways that remain open. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to Immigration Updates Hub for more clear, accurate, and timely immigration information without the hype. Share this video with someone who needs clarity and reassurance right now. And if you have a question about your specific situation, leave it in the comments below. We can't provide individualized legal advice here, but we can create future videos that address the issues you're facing and help you understand your options more clearly. Thank you for watching, thank you for your trust, and thank you for the strength you show every single day. We'll see you in the next video.